I'm reading this book right now, Why Materialism is Baloney, and I'm not that far into it, as you can see, but what I really like about it is how it's kind of explaining why, well, materialism, you know, is to be over identified with the physical nature of things, like to be over identified with the body or to be over identified with science. And I guess throughout the book, he's going to debunk why, you know, materialism is baloney because we are spiritual creatures. That's only what I could imagine. But in A Course in Miracles, it always talks about how the ego identifies with external things and how we try to imprison others. The sentence in my mind was, I love you, but you're going to have to go alone. And that's something I think often about. But A Course in Miracles is always talking about how we, even through not forgiving others for certain actions that they may have done towards us, how even just having that thought alone keeps people in bondage. And when I started to think about it in that way, like they have that famous Jesus quote where it's like, Father, forgive them for they know not what they do. Like in the spiritual world, they talk about how it's not necessarily the person who is doing the acts of evil or harm. It's kind of like an energy that flows through that is being identified with. Like we build relationships. It's kind of like exorcisms, but this is what addictions are too. And I'm sorry if I'm losing you here, but this is something I think about a lot. But this is going back to habits. We build relationships with things, with people, with habits, and those relationships that we build control the way that we think, and they control our biochemistry. So it's relevant here because we're talking about habits, we're talking about biochemistry, but this is more of the spiritual side of things. There's something, again, like there are people who have had near-death experiences, and in all cases, the consciousness, the scientific, material reason for why they should ever come back to life would not be there. This person should be dead, and for some reason, there's a miracle that happens. That's why I like reading A Course in Miracles, because some things are just beyond our comprehension, beyond what we know to be tangible as humans. Like that's why I like learning about the biochemistry, because I like learning about what influences the cell and how our food and everything. But I came to a point in time in my journey with all of this physical patterns and behavior that I was just like, oh, you really need to look at your outlook on life. Like, how are you viewing, what did you come here to do? Why do you think, I was very existential years ago. I was very, like, purposeless. I was atheistic for a good while, and I was just like, what is the point of this? Like, go to school, graduate, get a job, do the job, get married, have the kids, do that for 60 years, die. Like, I was like, that's pointless. Like, why are we here, And then, as I started to go on my little journey, I'm like, I really do like learning about the biochemistry in the cell, and this is really helping me. And, let me share this with other people, because maybe there's a younger version of myself out there, if time travel is real, who is able to see this. And in quantum physics, they do talk about that. They talk about time travel being real, being able to go back in time, go in the past, and to rewrite a story. Like, let's say there was a story, for me personally, there was a situation in my life 2 years ago. There was a moment where I knew with 100% certainty that I should have walked away then. And because I didn't walk away then, it became so hard to let go. So hard. Because after that, it was just like, I knew, you know? And that's how addictions kind of unravel themselves. You know something's not good for you, but it's the act of self-betrayal. It's like with food, okay? If you could relate to this, I used to have problems with food and ice cream and such. It's like I've already messed up for today with eating. I've already eaten bad today, so I might as well just keep going. It's like this added snowball effect of like, I already hate myself, let me keep going. And you know, you can always exit the cage. The keys are always in your pocket, you know. There is no point in time where you have to stay where you are or to continue going on the same path that you're going on. Something I like studying about the biochemistry is that we can change our biochemistry instantly just by even like holding our breath. Like if you feel really irritated, I've been trying to do that lately. Like if I ever feel really irritated, I'll just take a big deep breath in and I'll just hold my breath until I can't anymore and let it all the way out, and then I hold it again on the way out, and it changes your biochemistry like that. So anyway, why materialism is baloney. How true skeptics know there is no death and fathom answers to life, the universe, and everything. They say matter is neither created nor destroyed. And also, something fascinating is that I've been thinking a lot about lately is like dreams, you know? Like, I've been having dreams, like sometimes in your dreams you feel like you've been there for so long and like so many weird things happen, so much time goes by, and then you wake up and you're like, wow, I had so many dreams and they felt like such a long time. And they say, like, if you ever listen to the near-death experience people, like, they say that being on Earth, like, for this average 70 to maybe 100, maybe 120, I'm trying to hit 120 in good health. They say that this experience, after we die, it feels exactly like waking up from a dream. And I could get down with that because sometimes this life really, really does feel like a dream. Especially like if you've ever, I don't condone, but if you ever dabble with any type of psychedelic, it's like this world is definitely a dream. This world is like something, our senses are so limited. And, you know, that's why I think I'm excited to keep writing this book, because I do like that he started off with some real biochemistry, and you know, that's how you get to skeptics. You know, I always talk with my parents about, I told you I went through an atheistic time period in my life, and now I've had experiences where it's like, and just like learning in the biochemistry where it's like everything is connected, every single thing is. Even in physics, they call the quantum field, mathematically, it's God, how everything is connected. The cells, there's no reason why we would have trillions of tiny cells and they wouldn't be all disconnected from their cells. Like, there's a process that holds everything together, and plants are sentient, animals are sentient. So, well, I think I'm gonna go to sleep. But if you have the opportunity, I like the book so far. I found it on a TikTok. Like, this guy was talking about it, so I was like, it really drew me in. So, curiosity is potent. Also, one last thing with talking about miracles and such, I was talking to an ER physician not long ago, and I was asking her a whole bunch of questions. I was asking her like if she was close to her faith, because every time I could hear her speak, I could hear connections in my daily experience in my life. There was things that she was saying that it was like, that makes so much sense to me. Like outside of what we're talking about right now, it makes sense. And I was asking her about it, and she was like, Rachel, there's some things that like that cannot be explained, like straight up miracles that in the ER, like you have no idea. And so I don't know, hold out for the miracles, because like Course in Miracles says, this book says no miracle is too big, and they say like when we follow our curiosity, that is the trailway to the miracles. And again, that kind of goes back to habits. Like if we have habits that keep bringing us down and keep making us feel frustrated and clouding up the cell, hoarding up our energy, we don't have room to be curious and playful. We drop out of that childlike brainwave state. They say that children, these are the brainwave states that we experience, is related to our respiratory rate and controls, is related to our hormone state. They say that children up until age 7 mainly stay in this theta wave state. Like they are just chilling. Like, have you ever talked to a 4-year-old? I love talking to kids because they just say the most random, creative, fun stuff, very honest. That's why I like them. But they're chilling at 4 to 8 hertz. And when we go into a deep meditative state, when we slow our respiratory rate down, we can get into that theta wave state, But most of us stay in this high cortisol, high inflammatory, high end of the beta wave. That's that dopamine state. That's that speed racer state. And alpha wave is what we experience right before we're going to sleep, right before we're falling, and then right when we wake up. So, sweet dreams, as always. I will catch you later.